welcome to our Wafer Paper Friday. I wanted to try something new. First of all, I wanted to have a conversation with you and check in with you and see how things are going because I haven't been on YouTube in a couple of years, which is embarrassing, but not so much. And I still miss being here, and I'm looking for different ways how I can create content and share something or like be very sustainable with being on YouTube. But my life has changed as it always happens, and I feel like I'm being behind on a lot of my projects. My goal with this live real-time motivation work with me is to invite you to work on your projects. Maybe if I'll figure out why my YouTube isn't working on my laptop, then I can see, so it will be easier for me to see your comments. Maybe I will be able to answer your questions. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to get back on YouTube every single Friday. Fingers crossed, life happens, but I wanted to be here on YouTube live every single Friday. So you have time dedicated in your week to work on your projects and to deal with things you wanted to figure out, like things you wanted to do in terms of practicing new things, working on new things. I'll share what I'm working on today because I have 4 cakes in upcoming weeks and I need to make sure that they are going to be done. So this is how my desk looks like at the time. I'll figure it out in a second to clean it out. And I'm going to work on a few different projects. So I might talk, I might not talk, but I set aside 2 hours in my day today to work on a few things. And if you wanted to work on a few things as well, feel free to do that. Or if you just wanted to watch me work, feel free to do that. If I will have time to answer your questions, I would gladly to do that. And as long as I can figure out how why I cannot see my YouTube on my laptop and I cannot see your comments, this is so upsetting. I'm so sorry. I'm struggling, but that's like the thing with the technologies. And if you have anything you're working on, if you wanted to work with me at the same time, feel free to share that in a chat. And if you have any questions, feel free to share them in a chat as well. Oh, I hope I think fingers crossed. I think I figured it out because I wanted to start a little bit earlier. So again, my goal here is 2 hours of deep work, keeping you accountable. Yeah, I can see I can see the comments. Perfect, perfect, perfect. We are live. It's working because I would need to use my phone and okay, so now I feel so much better because I can see myself and I can see that you can see me. Perfect. So you've been making gardenia for an hour and here, perfect. I'm not making any gardenias today. So my goal for today, I am teaching 4 different classes in the upcoming weeks. I'm teaching one class for our Wafer Paper Academy members next Tuesday. So if you remember, we already have that on the schedule. I'm teaching Wafer Paper Daffodil for membership. I'm teaching Sweet Pea and Icelandic Poppies for Cake Girls Collective. And I'm teaching Butterfly Ranunculus for the Bake Fest. So I need to prepare for 4 different classes and I'm making 2 cakes. I'm making one cake for pastry art magazine summit something. So I'm teaching for them, but I need to make a cake to teach. And I'm making a cake in collaboration with the beautiful artist. We are making cake inspired by Biltmore Estate here in Asheville. I live in South Carolina, but in North Carolina there's Asheville. So I need to prepare for 4 different classes. I wanted to cut my wafer paper and I need to sketch at least one cake for the Biltmore. And I will start with sketching my cake and just like talking you through the process of sketching the cake because I think that's the thing that Many people would love to know how to do that, and I'll show you my way how I sketch my cakes. So my goal for today is to sketch a cake for the Biltmore and cut my wafer paper petals for 4 different classes. So I have daffodils, I have sweet pea templates, Icelandic poppies, and that's what I need to cut. And butterfly ranuncles. I should have butterfly ranuncles somewhere here. If I will be able to do all of these things at the same time, we'll see what is going to be next, because I need to plan other flowers I wanted to make today. So let me know if you're working on something, not just gardenias, but something else, because gardenias are beautiful. And I think I'm going to use gardenias for my Biltmore cake. But my goal is to be here for 2 hours until 1 p.m. and work and you feel free to ask questions if I have time. If I'll see your questions in the chat, I'll share and I'll answer them. If not, then I'll just keep working on the stuff I'm working. Okay, so let's see how fancy we are. Okay, see the magic of television. So which way I should go? This way. This way. I should move this way. So how I make sketches for most of my cakes. For the most part, how I do that, just like a little introduction on how I design my cakes and how I sketch my cakes. For the most part, first of all, I know what theme I wanted to make my cakes in. For the most part, I know, like, I work with fondant and I make wafer paper flowers. For the most part, I know that I wanted my cake to be covered in fondant and I wanted to make wafer paper flowers. I just need to decide what texture it's going to be on fondant, and I have like a few examples. Usually I just like turn back to my cabinet, to my display, and I look at different cakes and like, okay, whether I wanted to make this texture or that texture. So for fondant, I just need to decide on the texture and color. I make wedding cakes, so my color schemes are very limited to light. Not very limited to light color. Some of them are very dark, but for the most part in a wedding theme. And for the wafer paper flowers, for the most part, I just have to decide on a placement. And then I go on Pinterest and I just scroll through Pinterest and I think like, okay, do I want to make this flower arrangement? Do I want to make that flower arrangement? And because I'm teaching so much on sweet pea, Icelandic poppy, daffodils, and butterfly ranunculus, in the next week or two, I'm going to make a lot of these flowers, and I will use them for the cakes, for the upcoming cakes. So I'm just trying to reuse as much as possible, like this cake specifically. The one you can see here, I used all the flowers I had in storage because I only had like maybe 2 days to make this cake. So I just made a few things and then put everything together on a cake. So I know that I wanted to make a wedding cake. It's going to be, for the color, for the Biltmore, it's going to be either ivory or like sand, or maybe light brown-ish because of the color of the Biltmore estate itself. And it's going to be like, I'm going to paint on the cake. So for the texture, I know I just need to make smooth fondant. I haven't decided on a color combination, but now I need to decide for the flower placement. I have my cake dummies, and for the most part, I start with my, let me grab them. For the most part, I start with my cake dummies. So these are cake dummies that are going to be on the cake, because we have to deliver, and it's like summertime. It's going to be dummy cake and kitchen cake or cutting cake. So I usually go through my stash of cake dummies, or I order cake dummies specifically for like specific project, specific cake, and then I use that to sketch. So I will use these cake dummy sizes to sketch that on my cake before doing anything else. So I'll put it on the side. And then when I do that, when I sketch, I already know what sizes of my cake dummies I have, and like the design I have for my cake itself, like how I wanted to make it go around. And I know that for this is Lightroom, these are, but any notepad, any paper that has like dots. You can see this one is dotted. So for me, it's the easiest one to use to sketch. Usually for the most part, and I love this pants. I share that inside my Wafer Paper Academy, or every single time I teach, I share that so many times. These are friction pens, so you can, oh, you don't want it to focus. So these are erasable pens. Okay, it doesn't want to tell you that. So these are erasable pens, and I start with sketching. I usually do just a central line. So this is the central line for my cake, and then I start with the base. So I know, okay, roughly here is going to be my base. And for something like a dotted notebook, dotted, can I move it a little bit here so you can see me a little bit better? Okay, so for something like this, I will calculate how many inches my cake dummies are. So I can calculate how many dots I need to measure. This one, I believe, is 8. So it's 8, 7, 6 in 5. I think it's 8. Let me check. So I think it's 8. Yeah, it's 8 inches. So for the 8 inches, I will measure 8 one way and 8 the other way. So it's 4 and 4. So this is 8 inches. And for the size, these are 3 inches, and in total I will have 6 inches. So I will measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12. Okay, now I know that I'm not going to fit into my measurements with everything I wanted to. So, okay, let's do that on a smaller scale for the first time. So this is just a rough sketch. This is my first thinking process. If I'm going to use each square as an 1 by 1 inch, I need to measure 8 inches here and 6 inches here. So my first tier is going to be like this, right? Looks right. The second will be, again, 6 here and 7. Then 6 by 6. So it's 6 and 6. So you can see my first sketch is very rough. Did I measure that correctly? No, I did not. So like that. And the next tier is 5 by 6. So it's 2, 4, 6, like this. Okay, so now I know roughly what is the size of my cake, and I can make it look better. But at least I have my measurements, and this is for my cake stand, like this. So now I have my rough measurements for my cakes. This is 5 by 6 tall, 6 by 6 tall, 7 by 6 tall, and 8 by 6 tall. So for the cake, and this is the cake dummies I have here. So this is something that I'm going to use as my cake base and base the sizing and proportions on that. Because I wanted to have a roughly larger floral arrangement, but I wanted to use that as a base for my cake. So I want my cake to be on a cake stand and then surrounded by flowers. So I wanted my cake to grow out of the flowers. And the reason for that, because Biltmore Estate, if you're basing your cake design on a building or something like a building, usually when you're thinking about that, there is no flowers on top of any buildings. If you're basing it, that's my design process. But because I know that there are a lot of beautiful gardens around the Biltmore Estate, so for me, visually, I can imagine like the Biltmore Estate itself as a cake, and the gardens or all the flowers are surrounded the Biltmore Estate on the bottom. So for me here, I would prefer to have my flowers at the bottom first. So maybe I would need to have another maybe 2-inch dummy here, maybe 7 by 2, something like this, before my cake stand. and then all of that will be covered in flowers. So, okay, this is my thinking for the first time. So these are maybe 2 inches, maybe, I think 2 inches would be perfect for my cake. And now I'm going to transfer that into a better sketch, or like more professional, more fancy sketch. I don't know how to say that. Just wanted to see how many people are here. And if you are still watching, I'm always concerned. I'm always concerned and always thinking about, like, okay, what is happening? Who is here? Who is not here? What is happening? Okay, if you're still interested or not, I'll keep working. Okay, now I know that for my measurements, I can use a better ruler. I know that I need roughly maybe 16 centimeters, probably 18 centimeters. I will start on a different page and measure my cake here in the middle. Okay, I'll do another center line, but much lighter in color, like this. And then I will start with my base. So for my base, I know that I want that to be around 8 centimeters, maybe 7, 6. Let's do 6. So 6 centimeters. You can do inches, but I know that each square is 5 millimeters. So that's why I'm using just like square by square. So, okay, this is going to be my base. And what I need to do, because I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting and textural, I'll start with just measuring on the sides. Okay, this is my base first, but I will do to draw my sides. So this is my cake stand, and to make it more 3D or more dimensional, I connect pieces not at a straight line, but a little bit dipped, so it looks like a smiley line. So instead of going straight, I will go just a little bit below straight line, and here on the bottom. So this will be my cake stand, like that, and same for the bottom part, just a little bit wavy. Then I wanted to measure from here. I will measure 2 inches for my flowers, and my cakes will start from this point. And then for the first cake, what are we doing? All of them are 3 centimeters or 6 dots. So first, second tier, third, and fourth. And for the sides, I know I need to do 4 here. So this is my 4 or 8 inch, like that. Then 7, 6, and 5. Same on the other side. 7, 6, and 5. Okay, so, and let's connect them all together. For the most part, for me, like, easier visually to do that is to remove my central line first. I will still have a few indentations here and there, and I'm not going to connect my bottom part. But what I do is I put my paper on the side and just connect them here. Okay, here and here. So I'm connecting all my cakes just draw a little line here. And to connect them on the bottom, I will turn them upside down and do the same thing. So all of these parts will go behind like this. Okay. So now I have my sketch for my cake, but I wanted to add flowers. That's why I didn't connect that on the bottom. So for my cake, I know there are going to be buildings. So we are going to draw, like design buildings here. So they will be like different tiers or different buildings, or like things that are on a building here. And I don't remember which is next, like maybe. So it will be like hand painted, all of that. And design. So basically this is going to be my design for the cake, hand painted. And for the flowers, for the most part, I just draw different sizes of different flowers. So basically they are nothing fancy. If I wanted to change the shape, I just change the way I scribble. And then I will add smaller things. And for me, you know me, I will add my branches all over the cake. And for the branches, usually they are a little bit more textural like that, maybe with few leaves here and there. So this is how I sketch my cakes. And I might refine the sketch over and over and over again and come up with something that is less sketch-like and a little bit maybe more refined. Like this is the sketch for the cake you can see behind me. Let me turn. So the cake, that one, the big one, the big boy. So this is the cake. You can see all the designs, and this is the sketch. I think they do look similar. They kind of do look similar, but basically that's how I sketch all my cakes, and I do the same for my clients. So then I just like transfer that on a better piece of paper. But I'm okay with this for now. I know all the sizes. I need to write down all the sizes for my tiers. I know that it's going to be 5 by 6, 6 by 6, 7 and 8 by 6. And for this one, plus 2 by 7, 7 by 2 extra. Plus extra 7 by 2 to feed all my flowers. And for the flowers, I'm still debating between using like all of the flowers I'm going to mix, such as daffodils, sweet peas, and all the flowers I'm going to make, and making something like fantasy flowers to add to that. And that's my goal for that. So what I'm going to do is to think about all the color combinations. That's what I need to do by the end of this week, is to figure out, like, practice whether I wanted this cake to be covered in ivory fondant or white fondant or whatever I decide to do. But if I would present something like this for a client, I would transfer that on a better piece of paper, like white paper. Let me see if I have, like, in my, you can see I do a lot of explorations whether I wanted to have sketches or cakes to be 1 inch difference, like 5, 6, 7, 8, or I wanted to have 2-inch difference, such as like 5, 7, 9, 11. Depends on my liking, but basically doing sketches like this will help me to understand what do I want to do and how do I want to do that. Okay, so now that's my second sketch, and then I might refine it again when I will have all the designs, all the drawings that will go on a cake. I can do that again and put it in a nicer sketch. I don't think if you want, I can show you my sketches for my clients. I think I should have them here. For my clients, all of them get my portfolio template, not portfolio, they don't get the template, they get the actual portfolio, but for the most part, I give them sketches like this. So you can see it's basically the same thing, but a little bit more description and a little bit more design and maybe a little bit more color if I feel so. But they were very, for this client specifically, they wanted that to be blue, so I put it like in a blue color on the cake. But for the most part, that's how it's starting. And this was my task number 1 for today. And I will use it, I'll make that cake. And now I need to cut all my templates, all my flowers for my upcoming classes. I teach daffodil, sweet pea, Icelandic poppy, and butterfly ranunculus. I should have a printed version for the butterfly ranunculus. And I wanted to make a few roses, but maybe... Okay, so I need to cut my petals for that. I probably should use a cutting machine, but I feel like I don't want to use a cutting machine. I just wanted to cut my wafer paper. This is 0.27 millimeters wafer paper, and I have 0.22. Depending on the size of the flower itself or size of the petal, I usually use 2 different types of wafer paper. So for flowers where I wanted to get a little bit more texture or have a little bit more texture, I use 0 grade wafer paper. This one probably for sweet pea and butterfly ranunculus, I will use 0.22 millimeters wafer paper because I wanted to get a little bit more texture. For something like a larger flower, like you can see the size of this petal, I will probably use 0.27 millimeters, and same for daffodils, because daffodils are a little bit larger and would need a little bit more moisture to shape. So let's see how much I can cut out of that. I have a few pieces of wafer paper, and let me collect my scraps. For my scraps, for the most part, I just have a little jar where I put all my scraps of wafer paper, and I have a lot of different petals and different pieces of wafer paper I reuse. And for the most part, when I cut my petals, I place them in a little plastic bags to see what I have. These are roses. I have ranunculus petals, and these are not what I need. Okay, so I don't have any extra petals. I need to cut them all. And 2 pairs of scissors. You can tell I'm in my studio, I can have everything close to me. 2 pairs of scissors, one for the larger pieces and one for the smaller pieces. And all the scraps of wafer paper, I will try to reuse as much as I can, because I prefer not to waste my wafer paper. So let's do Icelandic poppies first. For the statement pieces, I know that I have a craft punch for that size. I should have. I think I hope I have. This is smaller. Okay. So these are my craft punches I use with wafer paper all the time, and I think this one might be the one. So let's see. I can start just like cutting, and because I'm going to use that on a cake, I need 2 stamen pieces for each flower. How many do I want to make? I wanted to make at least 10, 11 poppies for a cake, because this is relatively large cake. So let's plan for 10 flowers, and I will have 10 things prepared. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are 6, but I will plan for making 10 flowers. 6, and I need more. For paper. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10 for my centers. And because I'm going to teach that, I will make more during the class for sure. So it should be enough for me to start with. And then I will cut all my petals. For my petals, usually to save my wafer paper, I find it's easier to start with the larger petal and then to cut a smaller one, because smaller usually uses less wafer paper. So I'll start with the large petals first, and like this, and reuse as many scraps as I can. If I can fit any onto that, I'll use them. So if I need to make 10 flowers, each flower needs 2 to 5 large petals. I would say I need to cut at least 40 petals. I have 4, and then I have 2. So if I need 40, I have 38 left. Okay, let's see how many I can cut out of one sheet of wafer paper. Let me know in the chat if you're still watching, because I feel like I'm talking to myself, but it's always me talking to myself. every single time I go live or do something like this, it's like always me talking to myself. And okay, and entertaining myself, I guess. So, okay, for my wafer paper petals, this is 0.27 millimeters wafer paper. I folded in 3 and just cut all 3 petals at the same time. And I need 48 more. If I cut 3 at a time, I need to cut at least 12 times of 3, right? So 1, 2, 3. Oh, still watching. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is my first time doing something like this, and I always worry if that's the way to go, or do I need to plan something else? But I feel like we, as a cake designers, cake artists, home bakers, usually we feel at least I'm speaking on my own behalf. We feel so lonely and isolated, because when I worked as a pastry chef at the different bakeries, so always were so many people around. When you're working in the kitchen at the bakery or the pastry shop, there's so many people all around you all the time. But when I became a home baker, especially since coronavirus have happened, and I feel so isolated for the most part, because it's just like me cutting wafer paper petals forever and ever. And so I thought maybe if we can create this safe space, not safe space, but something fun for us to look forward to and do things together, maybe this is something that might be useful. So I need to make 40. 2, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 7. I need quite more. Okay, 40. That's like basically how I go about doing things. I just calculate how many petals, how many flowers I wanted to make, and then I think like, okay, how many petals I need to make to achieve that number. If I wanted to make 10, and my Icelandic poppies, these are from our Wafer Paper Academy, but I'm going to teach them separately for Cake Girls Collective next week. And if I wanted to make 10 and each flower needs from 2 to 5, I should be good with 40 petals. And it's just cutting, then conditioning, then wiring, then conditioning. So now I have 20 and 40 more. 20 more. Maybe I should have used my cutting machine, especially for all of that. But at least I'm entertaining you. And then, so I'll use that for class, and then for the Build More cake. And I need to design another cake for the Pastry Art Magazine Summit for pastry chefs. I'm going to teach there. I'm going to present there, not teach, present. And I need to design a cake for them as well. But I think I'm going to use one of my go-to techniques with applique. I find it's easiest one to use like as an introductory technique for everyone who just wants to practice or like try Wafer paper for the first time. So I'm not worrying about that. And for something like, I teach a lot because I teach for a lot of different memberships, and some of you found me through a different membership, and usually I use the same cakes techniques as much as I can, because I would love to create a new cake every single week, but sometimes it's just not possible because of the time. And sometimes like some certain cakes I like to spend a lot of time on making flowers. Some cakes I prefer to make like fast and easy. And now I know that I don't have enough wafer paper. That's funny. That's interesting. I will not have enough wafer paper to cut everything for my classes. So I'm that person who doesn't have enough wafer paper. But I usually order like premium these wafer papers from Amazon. So it's not a big deal. I'll order it today and it will be here tomorrow or probably Monday. So I will have enough for my classes. And I have 0.22 millimeters, which is fun. I'm getting my first set of cake dummies on Monday. I'm excited to be able to just decorate without baking. Yeah, I think that's the fun part of to decorate without baking, and especially if you wanted to use them and look at them for a long period of time, not just bake, eat, and forget about that. I like using cake dummies for a lot of different projects because I like to look at my cakes, and you know that I have a lot of my cakes behind me. But maybe next Friday I need to prepare these cake dummies, so maybe we can do that together as well. So I have 38 and I need 2 more, because cake dummies, they are, if you use the same cake dummies over and over again, it's totally fine. You don't have to do anything extra. But when you're using your cake dummies for the first time, usually just like you need to prepare those cake dummies, because some of them, especially if you buy inexpensive ones, they are not the most beautiful or straight line cake dummies, and sometimes they need extra love to be prepared. Okay, so I have 40 of my large size petals for my Icelandic poppy, and I need to make small. Now I need to cut small petals. So small petals, I might start with cutting 35, 40, and we'll see where it leads me. Because for my flowers, I prefer to have different number of petals all the time, because I find it makes it a little bit more realistic than just like the same number. And I'm collecting all my Wafer paper scrubs because I know I'm going to reuse them again. So I already have my bowl with scrubs on its side, and then I will reuse them again and again. So let's cut maybe 40 more, or I can cut as many as I can fit on my Wafer paper. I have 2 sheets of Wafer paper left for the Icelandic poppy. Now I'm thinking which class I'm going to teach first. I think the first one is daffodil. So I need to prepare those petals first. And then maybe use a cutting machine to cut sweet pea, because cutting sweet peas takes forever. And I'm worried about the condition if they arrive. So it depends. Most of the time you can fix cake dummies. Sometimes they do not arrive in a very smooth and perfect thing, or like just sometimes like this one. You can see this one is ugly. So just the cake dummy on itself, if I'm going to cover that in fondant, I will be able to see all these mishaps. So usually you can fix a cake dummy if you wanted to use, you can use sanding paper. So I use a sanding paper on all my dummies to make them look a little bit more polished. And then I stack them together with royal icing. And then with the royal icing, I will cover them, like to make them smooth if I need to make them smooth, because for the most part, like for this cake, for the Biltmore cake, I would have to make them smooth. For the most part, my cakes are covered in different texture, like rough stone texture or some other textures, so I don't care much about making my cake dummies smooth. Like behind me you can see a lot of cakes, they are not very straight. I don't care about that. But for something like for the Biltmore cake, I would have to make them smooth. So I will stick them together with bamboo skewers or wires. Then I will sand using like a sanding block. But do this either outside or somewhere where you can clean it easily, because styrofoam dust is not an easy one to clean. So I do not do, like when I need to sand my cake dummies, I usually just do this outside and not in my kitchen where I can clean it easily, not in my studio, because then it's going to be everywhere. And then I will cover them with a thin layer of royal icing just to prepare them for, like, to make them smooth before covering in fondant, and like let it dry and then cover that in fondant. Because if I'm going to paint on a cake, I need my fondant to be as smooth as possible, like as professional looking as possible. Some cakes, certain like designs, I just cover, even if it's ugly or it's damaged, I cover in fondant. And if it's rough stone fondant or marble, it doesn't matter, because you're not going to be able to see that. And because I create a lot of decent number of wedding cakes or celebrational cakes, I usually always find a way to reuse my old dummies and find a way to like manage the ugly ones. So like reuse the ugly ones as much as I can and prevent them from going to the landfill. And same, like most of my cake dummies, especially the ones I get to keep or put on my display, I keep them forever. Some of my cake dummies are at least 10 years old. And usually when, like, if you go, so most of my cake dummies I got for free, because back in the day, remember before the coronavirus, we had a lot of cake shows and cake conferences and different events where you can go and watch other people make cakes. And for those, there are usually, for the most part, there are a lot of companies that donate their cake dummies, so like donate different tools and different things. So I used to volunteer and like go to a lot of different cake shows all the time. So usually we'll come back home with a lot of cake dummies. And when coronavirus have happened, a lot of businesses went out of business, and then I bought a lot of cake dummies for free. And now if I need like something specific, I go on Amazon for the most part, and I find it's the easiest way. So let me calculate how many I have here. 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 20. 2, 4, 6, 8, 30. So I have 30. Okay, should I use this one? And I'll answer a few of your questions. I love the live stream. Maybe. Do you seal your dummies? I do not, because if I use fondant, I prefer, like for my cake dummies, for the most part, I do not use or stay away from using Crisco or any like vegetable fat tracks or something like this, because I find if you use something to seal your cake dummies, but not the royal icing, because royal icing dries just like firm. How to say that? My brain is busy with cutting petals. So usually the only thing I use is either royal icing, or if my cake dummies are in a decent shape, I spray with a little bit of water before I apply fondant onto my cake dummies. Because if I use Trax or Crisco or any like chocolate ganache or vegetable fat, it goes rancid very quickly. Especially I live in South Carolina, so it's relatively hot summers, and it goes bad and it smells disgusting. I made a mistake when I lived in Florida, because everyone says like, oh, you need to apply a thin layer of Crisco on your styrofoam before you apply fondant, because then it's like easier to peel off or easier to move it around. No, thank you. It smells really bad when it goes rancid, and it smells very bad, and you have to throw away your cake. It just like, it's such an unpleasant experience. So I do not do anything. If I need to fix any cracks in my cake dummies, if they are like in a very rough shape, I use royal icing. Otherwise I use just a little bit of water. If not water, if I need to stick certain details or it's a heavier layer of fondant, I would use piping gel, or same royal icing, but not chocolate, not Crisco, not Trex, nothing like that, just because it smells bad. It goes bad so quickly in a hot temperature environment. And South Carolina and Florida, not a big difference in temperature, still hot. Summers are still very hot, so I prefer to stay away from that. Okay, can I fit another one here? I think that will be sufficient number of petals for my Icelandic poppy. And oh, you mean, I didn't see the question, you mean in plastic? No, I don't, because I apply my fondant onto cake dummies straight with water for the most part, and then I have a video on my YouTube channel how to clean cake dummies. If you wanted to watch that, you can find that on my YouTube channel. Because then to clean my cake dummies, usually I just put them in a microwave for a few minutes to soften the fondant. And when the fondant softens, I just peel it away, and then I put my cake dummies in a dishwasher. So you can actually clean your cake dummies, or all cake dummies, or bad smelling cake dummies. You can put them in a dishwasher, and they are perfectly fine after using a dishwasher. So that's how I clean them. And if you're going to cover your styrofoam dummies in plastic before covering in fondant, you will have a very hard time. If you're working with fondant, if you're working with buttercream, it's a different story. I do not work with buttercream. But if you're working with fondant and you wanted to cover that in plastic wrap, it will make it so uneven and so hard to cover in fondant. So no, I don't. I just apply straight fondant onto that. Okay, let's see how many I have. 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 to 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 44. So I have 44, perfect. So I have 44 small and 40 something large. Should be more than enough for my flowers. And see, wafer paper, I will put it in a plastic bag and I will keep it forever and ever and ever. So I will reuse them all. I will use these petals again and again. Now I have a few sheets of wafer paper left and I can cut my daffodils. So these are my daffodils. Do you want to take a break? Do you want to take a 10-minute break? What do you think? Or should we keep working? If you wanted to take a break, now is your time to take a break. I probably will go to my kitchen and grab a few snacks because we've been working for 50 minutes. It's okay to take a break and then come back and work for another hour. And I see a few questions and they really help. That really helped me. Thank you. I didn't want to use plastic like some suggested. You can ask me anything you wanted to. Cake dummies are my thing. I know a lot and I practice a lot and I use cake dummies on all of my cakes. And I do know a few secrets how you can make it better, easier, and like better for you. So if I will have time, maybe I will start assembling my cake dummies today. Maybe I'll do that next Friday, like the ones I have here for the Build More cake, because my goal for today is to cut my petals. So daffodils and sweet peas and butterfly ranunculus. And I'll have to watch that video. I got the idea of using cake dummies for that video a while ago. Perfect. But the beauty of working or using cake dummies, first of all, because like if you are a home baker and you wanted to start working, making wedding cakes, and you wanted to make wedding cakes from home, for the most part, you probably have time constraint, you have space constraint, you do not have a fridge where you can feed a whole cake like this, like something like this, which is, I do not have space in my fridge to place, in my home fridge, to place a cake like that. So if you are making wedding cakes from home, you need to plan ahead and you need to structure your business in a way that it's manageable and it's sustainable and your family won't hate you for making wedding cakes. And cake dummies and using cake dummies is so much easier for you, even though you still need to learn the skills. It's not cheaper because cake dummies are not free. You still need to buy them. You still need to spend time on making them. So it's not cheaper to make dummy cakes and a kitchen cake. It just separates those two processes into different lines. One, you're making a dummy cake, and the other part, you're baking a cake. So especially if you wanted to make a cake for your friends and family, especially, for example, you're making a cake for your kids' wedding celebration, you can make a dummy cake and decorate a dummy cake a few months in advance. And then you can either bake a bottom tier, like a larger bottom tier, as a real cake, or you can make a kitchen cake on the side. For me, for the most part, especially after the coronavirus, a lot of celebration weddings are way smaller. So bottom layer 10 inches will be more than enough to feed the whole crowd at the wedding, especially if you're making a wedding size servings. So I would do 4 tiers of dummy cakes, 6, 7, 8, and 9, for example. And the bottom tier I will bake and make it as a real cake few days before the wedding, but the whole cake will be done with all the decorations, flowers, all together, stored somewhere aside, and then it will help you to manage your time way better. Or if you need a larger number of servings, you still not, if you're making cake as a wedding cake designer for 1,000 people wedding, for example, you're still not going to make it as a real cake because no one has time to cut so many servings out of real cake, to disassemble that. You will lose so much time, and it's expensive to cut the cake because most of the companies, catering companies, they charge per slice when they cut the cake. So for your clients, it's cheaper as well. If you're working with clients to make a dummy cake and make a kitchen cake or cutting cake that will be in the fridge in a perfect environment, easy to cut, prepared, same cake. It's same for me. It's 4 layers of sponge and 3 layers of filling covered in white chocolate ganache with few decorations. But the dummy cake, I can work in advance. Like I'm working on a cake that will be delivered maybe in June and July, August, but I can manage my time way better, make it in advance, and then bake the actual like cake people will eat before the wedding. So something like this is a dummy cake. This is a full size dummy cake, and basically I made that out of the cake dummies I had on hand. So for the most part, something like this was for style photo shoot, but all the textures and things I wanted to try, and all the flowers I had in storage, most of them are from our Wafer Paper Academy. These roses we made at the Academy, dahlias, what else do I have here? Anemones, and all the flowers I had, like eucalyptus, I had in storage. So for something like this, I put it together in maybe like 20 minutes or something, because I had all these flowers in storage pre-made. In storage, I mean in boxes. I made them way in advance for something like this. Like today, I'm just doing things and playing things I had in advance to have it on hand, like when next time comes for me to make a flower, I will have it on hand. Okay, so for a plastic bag, I'm making and then I will put my petals there. I will put large, and small. I know that this is 0.27 millimeters wafer paper, 27, and I have my petals here. Like that. So these are large and these are small. If you're still watching and wanted to participate in a conversation, just let me know if you are enjoying. I don't know how to ask that. If you're enjoying this conversation, and it would be okay for me to go live randomly if I wanted to teach something, because when I was working on the texture on the cake, I was thinking about like going live and showing you in a moment how I make that. Because sometimes, especially being here on YouTube and having a job of making cakes, sometimes it's just very hard to manage and to plan everything together. And maybe sometime next week, if we will have time to go about making dummy cakes and talking about dummy cakes or something like time for you to create together. Okay, now I have my petals prepared. All of that will last me for 10 flowers. I know that I can make roughly 10 flowers. Same for daffodil. Let's make a bag for daffodil. For that, I don't know how many I need, maybe 5, 7. Let's make as many as I can cut out of my wafer paper I have here. Okay, so if I'll go live on YouTube like randomly without much preparation and show you, you can go back and watch it again, would that be something you might be interested in? Because for me to make those planned YouTube tutorials and edit them and do all the fancy things, it takes forever to make a tutorial on YouTube, and I just don't have time, and I don't have a desire to edit YouTube tutorials. But going live is easy for me for the most part, especially if I'm working on something. I thought maybe I can take you with me and show you. Maybe that's what we can do. Okay, so for daffodils, I will start with cutting my petals. And for my petals, I need 6 petals for each daffodil. Okay, so this should fit 6 like this. And we'll see how many we can cut here. And okay, so, and I will need two of this. Okay, so this will, one sheet of wafer paper will give me 2 daffodils. I have 2 pieces of wafer paper left, so maybe I will cut 4 daffodils and then wait to order more wafer paper. Okay. And these are for class I'm teaching on, I don't even remember, sometime next week, but for membership. And we are making daffodils, and I will use them on a cake after that. I'm just getting here. Yes, you can find all of these templates for the flowers for Icelandic poppies. They are from our Wafer Paper Academy. Daffodils, I have a simpler version of a daffodil on my website. You can find them for free. I have a lot of templates on here, but today we are just working together, chatting. I'm not teaching or explaining anything in specific, but I will save this conversation. My goal with this live demonstrations is to be here for you and share something that I'm working on to inspire you to do the same and like practice and play. So I'm just chatting away my thinking process. And you can tell I talk way slower when I'm working on something, because when I make just tutorials, usually I just talk and I do not think. And now when I need to think and calculate, it takes a little bit of time. So my plan is to go live on Friday here on YouTube. Maybe I will add Instagram, because we did that on Instagram back in March and it was fun. But I was teaching more than just entertaining on Instagram, and I just wanted to take you with me alongside when I'm working on something and just show what I do. And again, same goes for myself when I keep myself accountable. If I know that I have to go live on Friday for 2 hours at this time, I will plan things I wanted to accomplish and I won't procrastinate as much. Okay, so these are 2 flowers, 2 daffodils, and I can make 2 more. Be able to make 2 more daffodils with same. So 1 sheet of wafer paper, this is 0.27, gives me 2 daffodils. I probably can fit a little bit more, but I'm not being very picky today. And that's my goal to be here, is just to entertain you basically with me doing things and answer your questions if you have any questions. And I'm preparing for my classes, things I'm teaching next week and the week after that, and working on the cakes. Okay, look forward to your lives. Yeah. If you're here on YouTube, I guess you can turn a notification on so it will notify you every single time. If you are a subscriber of my channel here on YouTube, it should notify you every single time I go live. And I will see how I can make it easier and not so stressful for me to go live sooner, faster, more often. Just go live. Because I make a lot of cakes, and sometimes like certain things are very fun, and explaining them on Instagram stories or explaining them just like taking little videos and making reels takes forever, and I don't have time to do that. But I'm still working on a cake, and I still wanted to show you how to do like certain techniques or something, because I find it's very fun to do that. So maybe we'll figure out a way to do that as well. So, okay, can I fit 1 more? Now I have 5 daffodils. And I need a little bit more wafer paper for the center, for the corona pieces. And I'll be happy. 5 daffodils should be enough for an arrangement for the, because I will make more in the class, but basically this will be like a daffodil arrangement, and these flowers will go on the cake as well. And the other thing I need to check is how many wires I have, and do I have wires in the size I need for that cake. And hello from France. Hello, Maggie. Hello, hello, hello. I'm just working on getting things done for the week, and you're invited to work alongside with me. You can mute me. You can just grab a cup of coffee or tea, whatever you're drinking. This is not a tutorial specifically. I do talk about certain things and share certain things, but basically I'm just having fun and working on the things I need to work on for my cake business. And you're just invited to watch me, be entertained, and see what I'm working on. I'm cutting petals for my upcoming classes, wafer paper daffodils, Icelandic poppies, and I need to cut sweet peas and butterfly ranunculuses today. Okay, so I have my daffodils, as many as I can. I need more wafer paper because I'm out of wafer paper. And let me see if I have more wafer paper. It's interesting. This is my bag with scrap. It's interesting how I don't have enough wafer paper. So I collect my scraps like this, and then I put them in a food processor and use to make different textures, wafer paper glue. But these are my scraps, bag of scraps with wafer paper. No, I don't. This is double thickness wafer paper. I do not have any wafer paper. Okay. I should have planned for that before that I'm out of wafer paper. But I have 0.22 millimeters wafer paper, and I'm going to use that to cut my sweet pea. So next I need to cut sweet pea and butterfly ranunculuses. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I feel kind of chatty today. I might not feel like that in a few moments. And my goal is here to stay for 2 hours and get as much work done as possible and cut as many petals as I can. Use all the wafer paper I have. Okay, so I do not have anything left. Let's do butterfly ranunculus. I should have butterfly ranunculus pre-cut. I teach that class all the time. It's interesting why I don't have any. I do have a few. So butterfly ranunculus is one of the classes I teach most of the time for different companies' memberships, and usually I do have more than enough pre-cut petals. But I'm going to teach that again, and I probably need a little bit more than what I have here. So these are large, these are small petals. Okay, I need to cut a little bit more for my small and butterfly ranunculus. And I use 0.22 millimeters wafer paper for that, because I find this wafer paper is not much thinner, but just enough thinner to shape it and get on textures a little bit better. And for today, that's the only one I have on hand. Out of all the other wafer papers I have. So okay, I will cut one sheet of wafer paper for the butterfly ranunculus. I think I'm teaching that at the Bake Fest on May 18th. I just wanted to make sure that I have enough petals, because when I make flowers, maybe I need to cut more if I'm going to make them for the flower arrangement. When I make flowers, most of the time I make way more than I need, because even if I have like extra flour or two, then I can put it in a storage and use it again. And like something like butterfly ranunculus is very useful flour to have on hand, because you can use it and you can mix it with everything. And any arrangement, butterfly ranunculus, for me, this is my signature flour for all the like signature secondary flour, because I use it in almost every single arrangement. For the most part, butterfly ranunculuses, they are, you can color them any color and they just perfect for any arrangement. Why is the wafer paper your preferred medium for flowers? So it started a long time ago when I lived in Florida, and I started making wedding cakes. I started making celebration cakes, like birthday cakes, and then I started making wedding cakes. And I started practicing with sugar paste, because about like 10 years ago, sugar paste was all the rage. Everyone, or gum paste, sugar paste, everyone worked with sugar paste, and all the classes and all the information were about sugar paste or gum paste. And I started working with that. First of all, my first concern, because when I started 10 years ago, I didn't have a full-blown business and I didn't have a lot of clients at that time. So my first concern with working with gum paste was how many tools you need to have and how expensive it is to buy all of those tools. So if you wanted to make one flower, for example, if you wanted to make butterfly ranunculus, you need to buy specific cutters for butterfly ranunculus. You need to buy specific veneers for butterfly ranunculus. If you wanted to make Icelandic poppies, you need to buy separate cutters for Icelandic poppy, separate veneers for Icelandic poppies, and just like you need to buy special tools for every single flower. And at that time, I had no idea what my style is, what flowers I like making. Everyone was making like roses, hydrangeas, and whatever, like stephanotis, whatever. Like it felt like everything looks the same all the time. So my first concern was the cost of making gum paste flowers, and especially tools. And then I tried every single type, brand of gum paste, and it's still like, if you're making a lot of flowers and a lot of cakes, it might make sense. But if you're just starting out like I was at that time, and you're not making that many cakes and that many flowers, gum paste goes bad, or like dries out very quickly. And then it's such a waste of your materials, because gum paste, it just like it goes bad, it just dry, you cannot work with that. You need to make fresh, but then you need to make like wait 24 hours until you can use it, or you need to buy a very specific brand. So it was such an inconvenience for me, because it's so wasteful and unpredictable. And again, the other thing was time. If you're making gum paste flowers, you need to plan ahead, like, okay, I'm going to sit down, roll out my gum paste, cut all the petals, vein all the petals at the same time, assemble all the flowers at the same time. I cannot wait, I cannot step away, because if I'm going to step away even for a second, gum paste will dry and there is nothing that can be done. And I don't have the luxury of sitting and making flowers for like 8 hours at a time and buy all these ingredients and materials and tools. So I started looking for alternatives. But same goes for example, for making buttercream flowers. If you wanted to make buttercream flowers, you need to buy all these tips, piping tips, all these tools, and learning how to make buttercream flowers. It's not easy. I'm not that artistic to learn how to make buttercream flowers, and living in Florida is just impossible. Buttercream flowers will melt immediately. But again, the thing that stopped me for the most part is the investment. You need to buy special tips. You need to learn special flowers in terms of how are you going to pipe them, all the colors, all the like gel colors and everything. And buttercream, if you're making a high quality buttercream, which is made with high quality butter, it's expensive, and it doesn't give me the same freedom as wafer paper gives me in terms of like creating different shapes and forms. So then I tried isomalt. I worked with isomalt and made a lot of different decorations because I think that isomalt looks very modern and fun for the most part. But in Florida, it melts so quickly. You cannot put it outside. And I always had the concern with isomalt that same with buttercream, it's not very healthy for kids to eat or like people with allergies. It's not the best thing to consume. Isomalt or buttercream is not the best thing to consume. And wafer paper, I had wafer paper for a cake. I was making a design with wafer paper texture, not wafer paper flowers, but wafer paper texture. So I had it because I was working at in the bakery at that time, and it was French pastry shop, and we had wafer paper to make nougat or like their own like confections. So we always had wafer paper at the bakery. And then one day I decided to try use it to make flowers because I started with making like fully edible wafer paper flowers for kids' birthdays because they can withstand higher humidity living in Florida. They are safe with the wafer paper is free of most allergens, so it's safe for kids. It's so much faster to make, and all you need is a pair of scissors. If you're making most of my wafer paper flowers I teach, they made just with a pair of scissors and maybe one veneer or like a few simple tools. But I can travel with my toolbox with everything I need to make any wafer paper flowers on earth, and it will fit in a little box compared to gum paste flowers and how impossible they are to fix. So I started playing with wafer paper just to make different flowers for kids cakes, and then I ended up making them other for other reasons like wedding cakes. And I started practicing when I moved to Chicago because I lived in Illinois before moving to South Carolina. When I lived in Chicago, and I made wedding cakes only. So my business was about making wedding cakes when I lived in Illinois. And I started practicing with making wafer paper flowers or more of wafer paper flowers because I was delivering those cakes by myself, like huge wedding cake, decently sized wedding cakes. Even if it's a dummy cake or half dummy cake, or part is edible and part is dummy cake, I delivered them by myself all the time because that was my business. I cannot imagine doing that with sugar flowers because sugar flowers are so much heavier than wafer paper. So for me, my main reason is how inexpensive it is to make wafer paper flowers. You don't need that many tools, and how lightweight they are, how easy they are to fix. So that was my main reason around switching to wafer paper specifically, or like wafer paper primarily. I still use gum paste. I do not use gum paste because I don't have it, but like fondant with tylose powder, I still use it to make foliage if I want like a specific texture on a foliage. Sometimes I still use gum paste, but for the most part, I use wafer paper for everything. And decently sized, yeah, decently. Decently. I mean, I'm 6 feet tall, so I'm 1 meter 82 centimeters tall. I'm tall. I'm a very tall person. So for me, like large is it's subjective. Like nothing is large compared to me because I'm tall. But decently sized, I mean, they are not one tier cake. They're like 4 or 5 tiered cake. That's why I'm like decently sized. My mom is visiting at the moment. Will I be able to watch this later, please? I hope I will edit this and upload to YouTube as a separate video with timers and everything. So if you wanted to just watch me rumble and talking about things later, I will do my best to upload that and make like a few timestamps so you can go back and watch it and say hello to your mom. Moms are the best. I haven't seen my mom in a long period of time, but moms are the best. I wish my mom would have been here because she would have helped me to plant all the flowers, and she would have fed me and made sure that I ate and not just work the whole day. So say hello to your mom and come back when you can. I will do my best to upload that to YouTube today. I hope I'll do this today. But now I'm cutting my sweet pea, and for sweet pea, I'm using 0.22 millimeters wafer paper. And I need to make a lot of sweet peas because I have this idea of an arrangement. So for the Biltmore cake, or I call it Biltmore because it's inspired by Biltmore Estate. And I wanted to make a lot of flowers, especially like textural and larger in size. And sweet pea is one of the same flowers that you can make as many as you wanted to. I usually, for most of the time, I make them in white. And then when I need to color, I just dust a little bit with like petal dust to adjust the color to a certain like specific color for the wedding. And sweet peas are very versatile in any arrangement. If you need to add any height to your cake, and my cakes are, you know, if you saw any of my cakes, they are wild and textural and large arrangements, and I like different heights, and I like very untamed design. So that's my style. That's how I see my style. So for me, making something like leaves and branches and making a lot of sweet peas, or something that is taller and I can manage like move around, that's always my go-to. I think almost every single cake I'm looking at that, or maybe berries, and most of my flower arrangement, they always have sweet peas because it's such a versatile. Sweet pea, butterfly ranunculus, and Icelandic poppy. I use them on almost every single cake, and then I add signature flowers such as Davidson rose, or classic rose, or dahlia, something like this. But all of these flowers we have inside our Wafer Paper Academy because they are such staple flowers to learn once and then like make them for every single arrangement or most of the arrangement. So the arrangement I'm thinking about, it has butterfly ranunculus, maybe, but definitely sweet pea, definitely daffodils, and definitely Icelandic poppies and roses. I think I will put either gardenias or roses for my arrangement. Okay, so sweet pea. I need a lot of them always. You can put them in a storage. It's very easy to make them, assemble. And this is for the class I'm teaching with Cake Girls Collective next week. So I'm preparing for the class with them, and then we'll have fun making sweet peas and arranging. And same with every single flower, I just use it. With sweet pea, you kind of have to use all three petals. But for the most part, every single flower I make, I use a lot of different sizes, different petals, so I don't need to worry about making them all the same. And I like making flowers, just like doing the same thing over and over again, like that. So this is the central part. And I probably will put a link to the Cake Girls Collective class if you wanted to join us. It's going to be live 2-hour demonstration. We will make Icelandic poppies and sweet peas, and just like talk about cakes, wafer paper, wedding cakes specifically, because wedding cakes are my specialty. And it's going to be live, and I think they offer, I'm a guest teacher, so I usually don't know as much. I think they will offer a recording, so you can do that. And for butterfly ranunculus, I think it's on May 18th, 19th. And I have a few other cakes for clients. First one is in June. It's going to be with wafer paper, applique, and sequins. I should make it like a separate tutorial on how to make edible sequins for using wafer paper, because it's so easy, but it's so versatile as well. So sequins and white and blue wafer paper flowers, because I don't know, a lot of people like blue on wedding cakes. Maybe it's not just South Carolina, but something blue I think goes well on a cake for any season. But summer weddings this year, a lot of weddings are with blue elements. And blue is one of the colors I use a lot in my cakes. So clients who wanted to have something blue on their cake, usually they can easily find me either on Pinterest or on Instagram, because I make a lot of cakes with blue accents. Especially when they go through my portfolio, I think like half of my cakes are with blue accents. And I can watch the live, have to go back to work. I will watch the replay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gabi. Thank you. Go back to work. Enjoy your day. It's Friday, and I'll finish cutting my sweet peas, and maybe we'll talk about something else. But I think I'm almost there with my sweet peas. What else do I need to cut today? I have butterfly ranunculuses, and obviously, if I'm not talking, I work way faster and just talk a lot. I need to color wafer paper, but I don't have. I need to order wafer paper before I will cut it, and I need to make a few videos of me sketching my cake. The one I did for the Biltmore, sketching for the project. I'm like the collaboration. I'm making a collaboration, so I need to make content for that. But I will do that a little bit later today and create like a better sketch. But if you are watching a replay or you just joined us live, we had this conversation about how to sketch a cake in the beginning of this video. So I hope everything will be saved and you can go back and watch it. But basically, my plan, my goal is to go live here on YouTube occasionally. I think that like Friday around this time should work for me, and go live for like 2 hours and do a lot of things I need to do that week, and talk to you about different things. So okay, more wafer paper, sweet peas. Yeah, I would have to vein and texture all of these petals. That will take me quite some time. And because when I'm not talking, when I'm not doing Instagram lives or like YouTube lives, usually I work relatively fast and I don't listen to anything. Or maybe sometimes I listen to an audiobook, but for the most part, I just work. I sit in a silence and I just think about all the designs and all the cakes I wanted to create. And today I'm talking and entertaining you. Okay, more wafer paper. Let's do this. And this is 0.22, so I can cut 3 layers at the same time. If I would use something like 0.27 and cut such like little fine details, I would probably go with 2 layers of wafer paper. But because this one is 0.22, because that's the only one I have on hand, I should be fine with cutting all 3 layers at the same time. And this is just me cutting my wafer paper petals. Also, we have these templates. I have some of these templates, not all of them, but some of them I have on my website for free, but all of them are available inside the Wafer Paper Academy. And inside the Wafer Paper Academy, we have SVG files or silhouette files. So if you wanted to use a cutting machine to cut your wafer paper, that's all of these files are also available inside the Wafer Paper Academy. And for me, most of the time, I cut by hand if I need to make just like a few flowers. But if I need to make a lot of flowers, I use cutting machines just to speed up the process. For something like sweet pea, I probably should have gone with cutting machine, but I thought it might not be this bad. And the other option, if you're using my templates, doesn't matter, for free or Wafer paper inside the Wafer paper academy, you can adjust them to your sizes. So you can cut them a little bit larger, you can cut them a little bit smaller, depends on the flower you're making, but you don't have to use the exact sizing. These, like most of my templates, most of my sizes are similar to the real flower, like how flower is looking like in real life. But sometimes if your cake is decently sized, so if you're working on a cake that on a larger scale, sometimes I scale up my templates about like 10-15%, because then it gives better proportion. First of all, if you're scaling your template up 10%, it means you don't need to make as many flowers. You need to make like 10% less flowers just because your flowers are larger in size. So that will save you time. And if you're making a larger cake, in proportion to the cake, you still want your flowers to be visible, and you still want your flowers to be proportional. So if you're making like a large scale cake, you're not going to use tiny, like fingernail sized flowers, because no one is going to be able to see them or distinguish them. So for larger cakes, I usually make Davidson roses, as same as Icelandic poppies, because they are on a larger scale. Like the flower itself is on a larger side compared to making something like anemone or something, because anemone, they are way smaller than Icelandic poppies, and if you're making a larger cake, you need something that will be proportional to that. But sweet peas are, so there are like how I think about that there are 3 different types of flowers, 3 different layers, not types, but layers, complexity of flowers. First is your signature. So for your signature flower, they will be show-stopping larger flowers that will bring all the attention to your cake, such as dahlias, Davidson roses, classic roses if you're making reflexed roses like on a larger scale. Same goes for peonies. Peonies for the most part would be your signature flower, or like the one that's bringing the most attention. Then it's complementary or secondary flower, that will be your flower to fill out all the gaps between your signature flowers. That might be butterfly ranunculus, anemone, something like maybe smaller roses or peony buds, or something that will make all these parts connect. Even if you're making a smaller scale Icelandic poppies, they also can be as a secondary flower for your arrangement. And the third layer would be something like your complementary or filler flowers, or texture, something like textural flowers. That would be your sweet pea, your foliage, something like berries, or maybe eucalyptus, something to give your arrangement a texture and dimension and make it look not as flat as just like 2 flowers and nothing else. Okay, now I have my sweet peas. Should I put them in separate bags? I think I should put them in separate bags, because then it will be easier to pull out. Do I have a smaller bag? Will this fit? Okay, let's do it this way. And then we'll see if I can put like little ones in a smaller bag. Like that. So I can feed all of them in a bag. And I got a lot of petals, and I keep them all together until I need to use them. So most of the time, if I need to make very specific petal, very specific flower, I check if I have some pre-cut petals, and then I do that with all the other flowers. Okay. So my small petal, my second petal for the sweet pea. I wonder if I can fit it in. Now you're here live watching me struggling with petals. Okay, so I got all my petals for all the classes I teach and cakes I'm working on. I made the sketch today. I feel very accomplished with all my tasks. What I need to do is to order more wafer paper, and because I'm out of wafer paper, and maybe start preparing my cake dummies and see which class I'm teaching at. And we still have about 15 minutes to go because before all these conversations. And I will edit this video and upload it to YouTube so you can work alongside with me. I hope this inspired you at least a little bit for all the fun stuff. And if you have any questions, post them in the chat. I still have about 15 minutes left. I think about all the things I need to do and answer your questions. So I need to start making foliage for my flowers and my branches. I can start doing that because I use a lot of branches in all of my arrangements. I can start making branches. But I wanted to work like for straight 2 hours on things that needs to be done. And branches, I will use brown floral tape. And all the wires, scrap wires, all the pieces I have. This will be all the scraps for my branches. And if I have any cheap wires, I've learned a lot today. Thank you for joining me. That's so much fun. That's so much fun. I love doing fun things, especially as long as I'm getting things done. Okay, what do I have here? I think I had like a least favorite wire. Okay. Let's do this and do this. 18, 20, 22. Let's do 20. Okay. I can start with doing that for sure. So for my branches, I usually use a lot of scrap pieces of floral wire. And branches is one of those things that I can use for every single arrangement. For the most part, branches are very, very useful. And I can have as many as I wanted to. Just like all the scraps of wire and brown floral tape. That. And then like this. Okay. Because these wires are not long enough to use for most flowers, but I still wanted to reuse them and not to throw them away. I'll remember the 3 layers when coming up with the design. Yeah, so 3 layers or 3 levels of difficulty, then you can base any of your arrangement in a combination of these flowers. So obviously for your signature flowers, you need to use less signature flowers. Usually just like, it depends on the size of the cake or an arrangement, usually just like 1 signature flower. But then for your secondary, you need to use maybe like 3 or 5 secondary flowers, and then all your texture pieces or complementary. And then you will have a full arrangement, because when you're using the same flower over and over again, you still need to figure out different ways how to make it interesting and how to make your arrangement proportional and still interesting and not just flat. And for me personally, I start with the large flowers. So I do the large flowers first. My signature flower I do first because I need to give them like the perfect placement first, and then I do my branches, or I do like the other pieces, like textural pieces, like branches and sweet peas and maybe fruits or something to give it the size. So I know my signature flower, I know the size with the branches, and then the rest will be filled with my secondary flowers, and from both sides, from all sides. And that's basically how I do most of my arrangements. I just put things together in very specific order. Some people prefer to use like signature, then secondary, then branches. For me, I find it's easier to do that like the main event, main course of the meal, then the dessert, and then the second course, because then like I like using a lot of branches, so like sweet peas and things like that, to give me dimension. And then I can sculpt my design, my style with very specific flowers, and then fill the rest in between. Okay, so for my branches, it's getting so dark. Why it's so dark? So for my branches, I just use brown floral tape, half width, and cover all my little wire pieces, wire scraps with brown floral tape. If you have a full length wire, you can cover your wire in floral tape first and then cut it in pieces. You don't need to cut the wire first. For me, I'm just reusing all my scraps here, and then like this. Okay. And floral tape is one of my least favorite things to work with because it's so sticky and it's so messy. But for branches or assembling flowers together, if you're a member of the Wafer Paper Academy, we talked about that during our rose workshop, how to use floral tape and how to make sure that your flowers are stay together and floral tape is working. But basically you need to make sure that it's fresh, that it's stretched well, and then you can put things together. I think it's about to rain because it's 1 p.m, but it's very dark outside. Here, we'll see. It's Friday, so raining on Friday. It's not fun. But I planned, I started a garden, not a garden, but a flower garden. And I planted a few flowers yesterday. And today I need to water them. So if it's raining, I don't have to water them, which is fun. And maybe I will sit outside, make a cup of coffee, eat lunch, and relax. Because even like if you do wanted to join us next week or inside our Wafer Paper Academy, I think like setting time aside to work on a certain projects or to have something in your schedule to plan to go through things will help you to achieve those things. And bring on the rain. Yeah. I don't know. I hope my mom told me because I know how to make flowers out of wafer paper. I don't know how. I'm not very experienced with like planting real flowers. So I called my mom and I asked her, what do I need to do? And she's like, yeah, you need to water them, but you need to water them by the end of the day, because if you're going to water like in the beginning of the day in the morning, then the sun will burn them. So you have to water them by the end of the day. I'm like, okay, mom, now I know. But yeah, so I haven't watered them since yesterday. New flowers, because I wanted to like I do have I buy a lot of flowers, flower arrangements, and I always have fresh flowers at home, usually on my kitchen table or in my bedroom. I usually have fresh flowers all the time just because I like it. But this year I wanted to plant something, so maybe I don't need to buy, and I can like just have my own flowers. I can cut them, put in a vase, and be fancy with growing my own flowers. So I know how to make them out of wafer paper. I have wafer paper flowers all over, but I wanted to have something like real, maybe the one that smell good. We'll see. I'm not a big gardener yet. This is my first year doing that. But I have a lot of plants. I have a lot of plants, monsteras specifically. I do have a lot of plants, but they are inside babies. They're not outside. And maybe this year it will change. Good luck with your flower garden. Yeah, I do not have a green thumb. I think it's so my thinking process, it's a skill that you can acquire because I have a lot of plants at home, a lot of plants. And but I inside, like, I understand how to take care of indoor plants. I have no idea what to do with the outdoor plants. That's my main concern. Like, okay, I know how to grow plants inside, but I have no idea what to do with the plants outside. My mom told me you should water them. That's what I'm doing. I'm listening to my mom. Um, okay, so what else do I have? Now I can put everything together. For my branches, usually what I do is I start taping them in like random order. And I want to be working on flowers, but I desperately need to be working on my flowers in my so I'm not the only one. I'm choosing to work on my Wafer paper flowers, but this year it might be different because I planted a few flowers yesterday, and guess how many times I checked on them. I planted them yesterday, like afternoon, but I already checked a few times if there is something. If there is nothing, it's too early to make any assumptions. So I'm working on my Wafer paper flowers until I get real in the garden. Yeah. Okay. Floral tape doesn't want to cooperate. So for most of the time, I use half with floral tape, and I use a tool something like this. It has blade inside the tool to cut floral tape in half. And I'm always boring because I don't want to cut my finger with this tool. And there are another tool to cut your whole roll of floral tape in half. But basically, for the most part, especially with wafer paper, it's not as heavy, so half with floral tape is more than enough for my needs. Okay, let's see. Can I start taping them together? So for my branches, I start taping them together in a random order, just like adding different things as I go. Different sizes and different things. These are just like scraps of floral tape, and I do cover them in floral tape before I tape them all together because it's way easier. And I still wanted to have this like wild texture to my branches, so they should have all these mishaps and like things that do not look perfect because these are just like random branches. Like that. Should be this one. Okay, so first one, then I'll make a longer one. And sometimes I add more texture, sometimes I add less texture to my branches, but I reuse as many of my scrap pieces of tape and wires as I can, just because branches are always useful for me. I use branches on all my arrangements because they give like dimension, they give visual interest, and nature isn't perfect and it shouldn't be perfect, and nothing in nature is perfect. And always when I teach that, I always make the, especially when I teach like in person classes, I always make this joke. If you will go around the class or you look at your table and you will collect all the ugly, or like in quotation, ugly petals, and you will put all your ugly petals in one flower, and you make one flower out of only ugly petals or things you think are ugly, that would be the best flower. And nothing goes to waste. Every single time you make a flower, every single time you make a petal, every single time you think that something isn't perfect, it will be the best. It will look the best in any arrangement. And if you look at any of my arrangements, I can see how many times I thought that like all of them are not perfect, or places where I felt like, okay, these shouldn't be like that. Those flowers look the best because they are the most realistic ones. And that's not the concern, or like my dislike for sugar flowers. Not that I do not like sugar flowers, to each their own. Each person decides for themselves what work for them. But for me personally, the sugar flowers are way more cookie cutter like, so they look the same for the most part compared to wafer paper flowers, because when you are texturing, like veining your wafer paper, it doesn't look the same all the time. All the petals are different. Like, look at me, the exact number, the exact size of for wafer paper for the floral tape I used to make my branch. Okay, let's bend it over. Let's see how we can bend this. All the connection points, I just bend them where I connect two wires to make my branches, like that. If I have leaves, I would have added some leaves. I don't have any leaves, so this is going to be just a branch. Same for this side, like that. But again, if you wanted to make your branches in advance, if you just wanted to watch a TV or something, like, or maybe you are driving, I made a lot of branches on a plane, because when you're sitting, when you're like flying for like 10 hours or something, there's nothing else to do than like wire or tape your branches and just like make something decorations. You don't have to flex them. You can put them together flat, and then you can just like flex them when you need them. So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm flexing them now just because I wanted to see how they look, but this is the branch that will go somewhere on a cake with sweet peas and other flowers, and I think it will look very beautiful and textural. And I can put it on a like longer wire, but basically with any flower this will look beautiful. And we are done, or almost done, or we are there. We worked together for 2 hours, and I like that was me with my lavender last year. Yes, yes, yes. I would check it 3 times a day. That's me. I just planted that, so I went out like a few times to check on my flowers, and now I'm thinking, do I need to water them today or not? And okay, look, it looks good and easy. Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much for keeping me company. And Aliza says, right now I'm in my kitchen with a tray of macarons in the oven and amount of ghee. Look how oh yeah, my window, they are planted in the front of my house, so I'm in the back of my house, so I'm like, okay, maybe I'll go out and look at them when I have lunch. And thank you so much for keeping me company. I hope that was entertaining for you. I will upload this to YouTube, so anytime you wanted to hear someone telling different stories or entertaining you when you're working on something, watch this video again and again, and you will learn something new every single time. Thank you so much for having fun. I will plan to go back next Friday for another 2 hour session, and we'll see if we can work together again, so you can plan for doing something together and playing, like preparing, cutting your petals with me. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Friday afternoon. Bye.